Okay, so I'm just going to do analysis of Strange Meeting. As you probably notice, it's quite a lengthy poem, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get it done in 15 minutes. Also, my computer's running out of battery, so I might have to do half now and half later, so we'll just see how we go. Okay, so in your first stanza, there's some interesting words to start with. So it seems that out of the battle I escaped. So you've got here the word seemed, which to me suggests that it's possibly not real, like it's almost dreamlike, sorry. That out of the battle I escaped. So the I is about Owen, or maybe it's about all soldiers in general. And in this first line, you've got this idea that it's like he's been able to get away from the battlefield. So, like, you'd think that this would be a positive thing. Down some profound, dull tunnel, long since scooped through granite, which titanic wars have groined. So profound means, like deep. So, like, this could be like the idea of being emotionally deep. So if someone says something profound, it means that it's meant to be something that is, something that has never been thought of before type thing. But profound can also mean like quite deep. So down some profound, dull tunnel. So in here, I'm getting the idea of like trenches. So that idea of them being dug out, that tunnel, and the idea of them being dull. So there's not a lot of life in them. Long since scooped through granite, which titanic wars have groined. So that idea of being scooped out, of the trenches being scooped out, and through granite, which titanic. So titanic means the idea of something being larger than life. So this could be a reference to like the sheer magnitude of World War One, or also, possibly, you can think about in 1912, so not long before this, you have like the sinking of the Titanic, which obviously was meant to be the biggest ship in the world. So like there's that reference there, that idea of that hugeness and the enormity of this. So in here it says this first stanza is basically about Owen escaping from the battle, but he's escaping through these things that essentially seem like trenches or something of that sort, like a long tunnel. So he's going somewhere else. Yet also there. So in this second stanza, you've got the word there. So we're not sure where this there is yet. It's this place that he's escaped to. Encumbered sleepers groaned. So encumbered means like to restrict or impede. So encumbered sleepers groaned. So the idea of someone being maybe in pain, if you think about this in terms of soldiers, it could be these soldiers sleeping, but their dreams and their minds are constantly filled with all the things that they've done, all the blood on their hands, all the things that they've had to do as a result of war. So encumbered sleepers groaned. So even though he's talking about he escaped on the battlefield, in this line here, it's almost like I'm getting the sense that maybe he hasn't, it's almost dreamlike, and maybe he is just, he thinks he's come somewhere else, but there's all of these like essentially like soldiers sleeping on the ground. Too fast in thought or death to be bestirred. So fast means like busy. Too busy in thought or death to be bestirred. So it means like bestirred means to be like, awoken, or disturbed. So from what they're doing. So in thought or death. So maybe it's the thought of death. So these sleepers are constantly thinking about all of the things that they've had to do in this war. Then, as I probed them, so again, we don't know who the them is, but probed means like to poke. One sprang up and stared with piteous recognition in fixed eyes. So you've got this idea almost of like zombies, like that idea of sprung up, like, so it's like it's fast, it's sharp, it's kind of scary, of these sleepers that were groaning and it seemed like they couldn't be disturbed. So you're getting this real sort of sense of this like nasty sort of nightmarish place, I suppose. One sprung up and stared. So stared, you'd assume at Owen, or the persona in this case. So we don't know that Owen is about Owen, but it's about the persona. And stared with piteous recognition. So like the idea, like piteous means, like sorrow or sympathy. So this piteous recognition, that's an interesting thing to talk about, which I'll come back to later. In fixed eyes, so the idea that this sleeper has essentially sprung up and is just staring straight at the persona. So lifting distressful hands as if to bless. So you've got a few things going on here. You've got a semi-simile going on here. Lifting distressful hands. That's an interesting adjective to describe, because if you think about what that means, like distressful hands to me means like shaking or like rigid. So lifting distressful hands as if to bless. So you've got also possibly religious imagery going on here. So someone who like a priest or something like that. So, but again, they're these sleepers that he's talking about. So lifting distressful hands as if to bless. And by his smile, I knew that sullen hall. So sullen means like sad. That sullen hall. So this hall is about the this place that he's in. So where these dull tunnels have come from. I knew that sullen hall. By his dead smile, I knew we stood in hell. So here you've got essentially what seems originally like the trenches, or possibly like a dreamlike state, is Owen making the connection, or making the comparison, between the trenches and the idea of hell. And we've seen this in other Owen poems as well. Okay, so, and by his dead smile. So that's an interesting oxymoron or paradox you've got going there, because obviously you don't associate the idea of someone being dead with smiling, and it's sort of jarring and like that nightmarish sort of imagery that you're getting here. So in these first two stanzas, it essentially seemed like at the start maybe like Owen is feeling like he's going to escape from somewhere. He's going to escape from this nightmare, maybe in his mind even, and then he escapes to essentially where he already was, and he's comparing that idea of what of the trenches and of that warfare to being like hell. Okay, so sorry, just one more thing I wanted to add about that stanza. With this idea of his dead smile, it links back to this recognition. So it's almost like this person, who we're going to assume is a soldier, like Owen, recognises Owen for whatever reason. And I think it's like distressful. So when we move on to our third stanza, so with 1,000 fears that vision's face was grain. So the vision is about this other person that the persona is looking at. With 1,000 fears that vision's face was grain. So the idea of grain, when something's ingrained into you, it means that it's like part of you. You can't separate it. So to me, I imagine like that looking at this person who looks like they're from hell, or like this nightmarish zombie type person, you can see the fear on their face, and it's almost like the lines in their face are so like tell the story of all the things that they've seen and all the things that they have to be fearful of and that they can never forget. Yet no blood reached there from the upper ground, and no guns thumped or down the flues made moan. In these two lines where he's got yet, so here we've got, it's like the persona saying, why is this man or this thing so fearful? Why is there all this fear on this person's face? There's no war here. So there's no guns, like there's no flues, there's nothing, there's no blood. So this is really interesting, because essentially in the poem, Owen's saying that they were in hell, but that idea of being in hell is better than being on the war field. So he's making a comparison here, saying, so why would you even care if you're here, because you're not on the battlefront anymore, and the battlefront is much worse than where we are now, even if we are in hell, and that is the worst possible thing that people can imagine. So, strange friend, I said, here is no cause to mourn. So again, that links back up to here, where like Owen's basically saying like, why are you so upset? You know, we're done. It's over for us. There's no more war for us. So from the rest of this poem on, so from this word none, the rest of this poem is basically the other person speaking to the persona. Okay, so none, said the soldier, save the undone years. So here you've got the soldier number 2, saying like, no, I have nothing to mourn, save the undone years. So all those years that have been lost to them. So you can link that in terms of lots of poems. So you could talk about like the loss of innocence, the loss of childhood. So possibly link it to Anthem in that way. Save the undone years, the hopelessness. So maybe to futility in that way, like the futile nature of what has happened. Whatever hope is yours was my life also. Okay, so here you've got the person number 2 making comparison between like, yes, I was hopeful just like you were. I was hopeful like all of the soldiers who went to war thinking that this war would be a glorious war, that they're thinking that they thought it would be the old life. So linking to Dolce. Whatever hope is yours was my life also. And then in these next lines, he kind of like outlines all the things that he did. So I went hunting wild after the wildest beauty in the world. So this could be possibly about the idea of love, like hunting love, or it could even be like the idea of like hunting nature and hunting freedom and hunting experiences. Okay, so it's like he's saying, you know, like I had my whole life before me and it was cut short, just like your life has been cut short. Whether that means like literally cut short or if it means like figuratively cut short, because essentially they can never have the life that they had before they started the war, because they can't unsee all the things that they have seen. So it could be interpreted either way. So which lies not calm in eyes or braided hair, but mocks the steady running of the hour, and if it grieves, grieves richlier than here. So in these 3 lines, there's a few things that I want to talk about. So here, this could be possibly like linking back up here, went hunting for the wildest beauty in the world. So this braided hair could be about a girl, possibly. But mocks the steady running of the hour, and if it grieves, grieves richlier than here. So in these lines, you've got this idea that this loss of beauty is more acutely felt in this place that is so removed from and lacks beauty. So it's like the opposite of what you would expect beauty to be, and that pursuit of beauty has been totally switched in this place that they're in. Okay, so then the person number 2 moves on and says, for by my glee many men have laughed, and of my weeping something has been left which must die now. So in here, this line here, it's like he's saying, you know, I had so much life to give and so much to give to others, and I was able to make others happy, and now that's gone. So me leaving has left, like I had so much more to give the world, I suppose. And of my weeping something has been left which must die now. So it's like he's saying that something has to die with him. And then in this line here, he says, I mean the truth untold. So he's saying that with his death, something does not get told. So if you think about poems like Dolce, where Dolce is about how the truth of war is not that it is glorious, that it's harsh and it's brutal, and that there's nothing glorious about war. So in this, he's saying, like with my death and with your death as well, the truth of war will be forgotten about. No one will be able to tell others about the truth of war because they keep getting peddled this lie about